Hello and welcome to Kettering Builds. We're back with another episode of Satisfactory, and boy have we been busy. We'll take a look at the factory in just a second. First, I want to take a quick look at the research here. Today's goal is going to be to unlock some of the things in Tier 6 here, specifically the expanded power infrastructure. So we're going to go ahead and select that as our milestone, and as long as we're here, dump some of these materials. We have all of the materials actually to unlock this, and our goal with unlocking this is to get to fuel generators, as our power needs are going to continue to increase drastically, and we're starting to hit a point where having these Mark IV conveyor belts would be a big help, and I really want to get the jetpack unlocked for our little adventures, and that requires packaged fuel. So let's take a look at the factory and what we've been doing here. We've got a little bit of a hobbled together mess here with some containers, and what we've set up is the ability to create circuit boards, which runs into creating computers. And so I've been running this kind of manually here, just set up some containers rather than a full factory at the moment. Just dumping some of the materials that we can access here, bolts, wire, etc., into this. The big limiting resource is the plastic, however, and we're currently out of plastics, which we need both for the circuit boards and the computers themselves. The other thing we need for all of our research here is these heavy modular frames. Pretty much all of the Tier 6 research items require them. And so I went ahead and used a bunch of space in our factory here to set up the manufacturing necessary to create these heavy modular frames. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough room up here on the third floor for the constructors. And so if I actually jump down here into the second floor, we've got these two manufacturers creating heavy modular frames, and these require a ton of components. I need modular frames, steel pipes, encased industrial beams, and 200 screws a minute in each of these. And so we've got two of these set up here on our second floor, and we're piping all of these materials in from other parts of the factory here to feed these two manufacturers. And so down here on the first floor, we've reworked some of the other stuff we had down here, and we've got these assemblers creating these encased industrial beams. These are also, if I'm not mistaken, the items that we're going to need when we start making the next tier of conveyor belts. So having a little bit of extra production capacity here, making those is going to be useful to us. And then we're also piping in the steel pipes that we need for that recipe up into the second floor. And then our third floor has been taken over completely, creating the screws and modular frames that are necessary for this recipe. And so you can see here, for a modular frame we need iron rods, which we have a good iron rod production facility on the second floor, but we also need a lot of these reinforced iron plates. And so we moved the two assemblers that we had in the second floor up here, and we expanded this to 6 assemblers so that we've got plenty of reinforced iron plates being created. Much like some of our other recipes, I think we have just a little bit of extra capacity here than what we needed. But I'd rather place down a whole assembler than try to monkey with adjusting the power to get it perfect. I'd rather have a few extras because that's an item that we commonly need, and so I can just go grab one whenever I need it. And we went through a few iterations to figure out how we were going to lay things out up here. We've got the iron plates getting created up here on the second floor that's needed for these reinforced iron plates. And over here is where all of the screws are being made for all of these recipes. So you can see here we've got two different belts of 200 screws per minute being brought out the wall here and down to our factory that's making these heavy modular frames. So that's what I've been working on off camera, and while I've been working on setting this all up and getting it going, I had the computer manufacturer down here going, and I've been just running that manually. So if we run over here real quick, I should have in a chest here some of the leftovers. And so you can see here I've got 100 computers and quite a few encased industrial beams for eventually when we're going to need those for upgrading some of our belts, and that's all been set aside. We've also got some rubber in here that we set aside previously. And so with all of this, I should be able to come into here and upgrade everything we need to unlock the fuel generators.
Milestone reached.
And so with that unlocked, we're gonna want to bring the resources necessary to build a few of these down by our reactor. So I'm just gonna double check here what we need to build a few of these. Looks like we've got most of the components. We just need to pick up some motors. We're also actually gonna need a few more refineries here. So let's see what it's gonna take to put a couple more refineries in here. Maybe 3, I'm not sure. So it looks like we've got all of these materials still. We just need some motors, which we've also been running here in the background. So I'm just gonna grab a few stacks of motors here, keep everything moving, looking good. So with all of those materials, we're gonna grab a little bit of concrete just to have in our inventory, and then we're gonna head on out to our oil base. Since we are gonna go down there and set up our fuel power, I think we're gonna actually have the generator sit down there so that we don't have to move the fuel around on the map. And so I've set up this set of poles here with the wires down to the canyon floor here from our base, and this is going to allow us to bring that power all the way back up to the base here and hopefully not need to expand our coal generators too much. And also at some point I'd like to probably be able to shut down the coal generating power systems, just because they're less efficient and take a lot more to manage. So we're gonna just bring the wire out here with us right now. It's also gonna let us travel back and forth here a little bit faster using our handy dandy, I don't even know what they call it, but the deal that lets us ride on the wires. So I'm avoiding that cave entrance because there's a whole bunch of those exploding creature things in there. We're gonna come over here and hopefully be able to, I was hoping to get this to the edge. We're just gonna continue to run this right along the shoreline here, I think. We're gonna try and keep it somewhat out of the way, just so that if I do need to come through here with a vehicle of some kind, I have a clear path to do so. And just like that, we've brought the wire all the way down here, so our power grids should now be connected, which you can see our max consumption is way higher than it had been previously. It stepped up here significantly as the two networks joined together. You can see our production is at 1200, but we're consuming far less than that. And we do have a number of batteries now between both of these bases on the grid. Now, in order to make fuel, there's a few different ways we could make fuel. If we pop into this refinery here, we could make fuel by taking crude oil and turning that into fuel and this polymer resin. And then we could use this polymer resin to create, I believe, both our plastic product with some water or our rubber product with some water. And so we could do that if we wanted to create more fuel than these other products. However, we're gonna really need a lot of the plastic and rubbers, I think, as we progress down the tech tree. And so instead, we're gonna make this residual fuel, which takes the heavy oil residue and turns it into 40 fuel per minute. Each refinery is gonna be able to take 60 heavy oil residue. And if I recall correctly, we generate 20 heavy oil residue per rubber refinery. And if we go across the way here, I believe it's 10 heavy oil residue per plastic refinery. And so each pair of these, if we think of them as a pair, is generating 30. We have 8 sets of refineries creating each. And since we require 60 per minute in each of these refineries, that means that we're only going to need 4 of these refineries to create the fuel that we're going to be producing here. And so I'm going to actually, for simplicity, and because we're probably going to need some of these parts for something, get rid of 2 of these refineries. And that's going to also free up a little bit of space here, because if I recall, these fuel generators are absolutely massive. So I'm not sure how much we're going to produce here. We'll calculate how many fuel refineries we're going to need in just a second, but we're going to be able to power a few of them, I suspect, with this. So with those cleared up, I'm going to make sure that we've got all 4 of these refineries switched over to produce residual fuel. And then we're going to tear down all of these coal power plants that we spent so much time setting up in the previous episode. Lesson learned. We should have just looked one step down the tech tree and understood that we weren't going to need all of this power, or that rather we were going to be replacing it here shortly. All right, so we have cleared everything off of these platforms with the exception of the storage container over here that held the overflow petroleum coke. And so now we're going to see what we can do to get this up and running now. So each of these refineries is going to produce 40 fuel per minute. So let's get one of these fuel generators placed here and see if we can figure out how many of these we're actually going to need. And so my desire would be to kind of move some of these platforms back, not have them running quite so far out and destroying all of the terrain. And so I'm going to try and keep us to these platforms here. I am going to put it there so we've got somewhere to run our pipes. And that's going to allow me to kind of clean up some of these other platforms over here. Again, the desire is not to take up all of the landscape with platforms if we can help it. And it should, if I'm not mistaken, allow me to clean up another row back here. Let's wait till we're done testing to make sure this is going to work out, though. So the first thing that I'm going to do is place down one of these junctions here right in front of where the fuel is. In fact, we're going to put it right in the middle. If I can find something to stand on so I can see what I'm doing here. We're going to put it right kind of in the middle of that platform. I wish I'd centered this a little bit better, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter. And we're going to run this pipe right into here. And my hope is to get some fuel in here and see how much fuel we're going to need per tick here. And so the only way to do that is going to be to get this system all turned on and running. And the only way to do that is to move some of these materials out of these storage containers. And I think the best option for us is going to be to build one of these trucks. And so we did unlock this in the previous tier. We've just never used one. And my understanding is this thing has a massive inventory. And so my goal is going to be to load it up with as much stuff as we can to bring back with us. We're going to need an absolute enormous amount of this plastic. So we're going to keep loading plastics into here for the time being. I'm going to take 2 full loads of plastic and load that up in here. And we're also going to take a load of rubber just because I want both sides of the refinery system up and running. I'm going to take my cable back out into my inventory, and we're going to take a little bit more plastics than rubber, I think. So let's see how this is running. It looks like we've got plastics and rubber moving down the belts now. if we check one of these refineries, it is running again. And so let's come over here and see if this thing is building up any heavy oil residue yet. The pipes are slowly starting to open up, and I can see that I've got heavy oil residue now finally coming into this refinery. So I'm kind of curious to see when we get some fuel on this side. We haven't had any fuel yet because it says none in the current pipe. And so we should see it right about now. It's going to construct 40 fuel. Oh, it's going to construct less than 40 in a tick. But I see the pipes are moving here. I've got fuel now entering the pipeline here. And that's coming over into this side. We're burning fuel, but we didn't cook this thing up to anything. So let's put that over here. And look at that. We're burning through that fuel rather quickly, but we're creating 150 megawatts of power for 12 cubic meters of fuel per minute. And so if this is going to output 40 per minute, I'm going to be able to power a ton of these fuel refineries. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of fuel. Am I doing that math right? 60 per minute here, which I'm creating way more than that, is going to create 40. Wow, fuel is so much more efficient. And yeah, you can see here, we're topping out our fuel faster than we're burning it off here. And we've got all kinds of power to show for it. So we're going to let that run because I'm sure we're probably draining our batteries. We're holding even on our batteries. We're generating quite a bit of power right now and not using a whole lot of it, all things considered. And so I'm trying to think about the best way to lay out the pipes here. So I'm going to replace these fuel generators a little bit. I generally like to have a walkway around my structures when I'm building if I can. And so I think what we're going to do is place this fuel generator right here. So I've got one walkway all the way around it. And then we'll just continue this pattern down. I do need a little bit of rubber. I put all my rubber back in the container. So we're going to put 3 of these fuel generators down in a row here because I don't have enough of the heavy modular frames with me in order to place more of them. And what we're going to do is just run this pipeline kind of down and along all of these. I'm going to see if I can hop up here so I can see the line. And I think I'm going to center it right on the divide between these foundations. All right, there we go. We've got that one placed, and then I'll be able to just bring this down here and get it centered on the next one, and likewise get this one centered on the next one after that. Perfect. So let me just get this all hooked up here real quick, and we'll get it turned on. All right, so I've got 3 of these big fuel generators up and running now, and we're not even using all of the fuel that gets generated by just one of these refineries. And while I'm sure we're going to need to put a few more of these fuel generators here along this line, I also want to set aside a little bit of this fuel for other uses, even in the short term. So we're going to come in here to production, and I'm going to find one of these packagers. And I believe the way a packager works is I'm going to put it down right here somewhere along here. And we should be able to feed 2 things into it. We're going to make packaged fuel. And so to make packaged fuel, we need fuel and empty canisters. So in order to bring the fuel in, we're going to bring it up here to the 2nd level. And we're going to do that by using a stackable conveyor pole like so. I don't know how many of these I'm going to need, so we're just going to bring, a few of them in. I'm going to put this over here, and we're just going to run a line for now. If we need more, we can always extend this a bit later, but I should be able to do something just like this and then bring in a pipeline section like this. And if I recall correctly, all I have to do is jump up on top and I'll get the snap lines like I would if I was placing it on the ground, something like that. And just like that, we've got nice and straight pipes. We're putting fuel into the packager, and I can provide some power to this thing. Now all I need is some empty canisters. So let's head on back to our trusty workbench over here, because I'm not sure what an empty canister consists of. Hopefully a resource that we have readily available. It'd be great if it just required plastics. Craft bench, empty canister, plastic. Look at that. So in order to make our lives easy, I think what we're gonna do is simply set up a constructor here for the empty canisters and run them over there on a conveyor belt. All right, so we have set up a plastic line. We moved our constructor over here, and we're gonna go ahead and set this constructor's power on, and it should start creating canisters. They're coming out here, looking good. So let's zip down this belt here, get ahead of these canisters, make sure I've hooked everything up along the way here. We just decided to run the belt along the top of all of the pipes here and straight over here into this for packaged fuel. Now, the last thing that I need to do here is actually set up somewhere for this fuel to go. And I think the intent is to put it into one of these containers here. I don't know how many of these we're eventually going to get, but given that right now we're only bringing in fuel from one of these packagers to get us started, we'll do something like this. I'm going to use Mark III belts because I'm running out of materials. And we could probably upgrade all of these belts to Mark III as well, since steel is currently our least used material. We've got tons of it sitting around, and so this should help speed things along a bit, at least to get us started. I don't think we're producing canisters that fast. We're only producing at 60 a minute, so this is just going to help shoot them down here a little bit faster to get us going. Eventually this is going to back up here pretty quick. So just like that, we're making packaged fuel at 40 a minute. So we're going to get quite a bit of packaged fuel in here over the next couple of minutes. And that's good because I can't recall, but I think we need probably 50 to unlock jetpacks. And then we're going to need some just to power things. Eventually, it would be nice to have some of this packaged fuel to power all of our vehicles that are moving around on the map. And we're going to need a few more of these fuel generators here. If we look at the power situation, yeah, we're fine for now. We're only consuming 500 and something megawatts. However, we could be consuming up to 2,288 megawatts if all of our machines came on. Right now, so many things are offline and stopped because our storages are full and we haven't built the rest of our factories. Now, I've been watching the updates from Coffee Stain Studios, and there's some awesome updates coming for factory building in Update 5. And so I've been kind of holding off on some of the aesthetic points of our base here until those updates hit. However, we are going to keep progressing down the tech tree here. So my goal for today was to get converted over to fuel power from coal power. I'd say we mostly succeeded here. We can scale this out quite a bit just by bringing the materials back up here and placing the fuel generators. So we're going to give ourselves a B+ on that today. And our secondary goal was to get enough of this packaged fuel to unlock the jetpack. And so let's see if we can bring back at least 100 of this with us. and go unlock that research real quick. All right, we're coming back up to the base here, and man, this truck is a beast. It definitely has more horsepower than the smaller tractors, so we were able to get up some of those hills a lot faster. We're gonna park this thing here though, because I do not want it unloading in any of my truck stations, especially since my truck stations all are hooked up to different automations, so we'll leave that going for the time being down there. It's just got some extra materials. And we're gonna come up here. That's my leftover saters. We've got the copper sheets. What is this thing for? This must be our plastics. So let's go ahead and dump a couple of those in there for a second. Get us just a little bit of inventory space freed up. And that's gonna kick off our circuit board production once again. And subsequently our computer production. Look at that. We're back in action here, folks. So let's take a peek here now and figure out what is it that we needed for the jetpack. We needed 50 fuel, as I thought, and 100 plastic. So let's go grab 100 of these plastic back, and we're gonna unlock the jetpack. Oh yeah. So I assume the jetpack is going to be made over here at the equipment workbench. So let's take a quick look here. We can't research it and not build it. So we're going to need another 50 plastic. Let's just jump right down here into our handy truck where we've got more plastic than we could ask for. All right, the moment of truth. Let's make us one of these here jetpacks. Oh boy, am I excited. Here we go. We're going to drag that into our body slot. Now I have to be careful because we won't have our fast running and fall protection that we get from the Blade Runners. In fact, I'll probably end up using the Blade Runners for a lot of stuff. But man, there were times when we were building this factory that I wished I could just get right up there. So let's try it out. Oh, here we go. Jetpacking. Ouch. Okay, so we can only go as high as the fuel lets us, and it looks like it takes 2 to fill up the jetpack. So we're gonna have to go a floor at a time. There we go. Oh yeah, it's still cool. We've acquired the jetpackery. Super exciting. Ooh, bursts seem to be more efficient. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. We have unlocked fuel power generation. We've unlocked jetpacks. And we've got 2 more technologies left here in Tier 6 that both require a ton of these heavy modular frames. But now that we've got our power situation under control, we're going to be able to knock both of those out pretty quick, and then we're going to be on to building more permanent factories to get our spaceship components up and running. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, drop a like, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time as we get our train set up. That's all for today. Kettering out.